Hello, and welcome to Intercultural Talks. This is a weekly program about all things intercultural and intergenerational, particularly as relates to communicating and connecting in daily life. So, I am your host, Deanna Schaas, and today I'm delighted to welcome Tessa Greenspan to the show. Her awards and accolades include, they are many. She was the Small Business Association Person of the Year. She was St. Louis Top Woman Business Owner of the Year. She's among St. Louis Business Journal's Women of Influence in St. Louis, and was the Women Grocer of the Year nationally. She's a motivational speaker, and she's an author of From Outhouse to Penthouse, which is both metaphorical but a literal story of her life. Tessa, I am so excited to welcome you. Thank you for being on Intercultural Talks.
Well, I'm excited to be here with you, Deanna. This is so good. This is really good because intercultural and intergenerational is what we are.
Absolutely. So, I did want to say, and speaking of that, so we're live right now on both Facebook and YouTube. And for people who are watching live, what's really fun is that we can see your comments. We would love, please say hello, because that's how we know that you're here. Both just leave anything in the comments. And if you have questions, you can ask live as we go. And I did want to share, even pre-starting today, Jason Bordeaux, love that lady. So that was a pre-promo for you coming to the show today. So thanks. So yeah, please do share. So I would like to ask, a major tenet of intercultural communications or intercultural interactions is that idea of thinking of the other and thinking of other people's perspective. And I know there was a time in your life, you were the owner of a market and you found out that you were $1 million in debt.
Yes.
And rather than going for bankruptcy, you said, no, I've got to think of the others who would be impacted. Can you talk about what happened and how that approach kind of got you on a road to success?
Yes. And it started with my partners handing me the keys and saying they were declaring bankruptcy. When I got into the books and saw that I was left with $1 million, I had to make a decision. Either I could fight the fight, declare bankruptcy, or who knows. I decided to fight the fight and give it my best or die trying, because these were all vendors, small vendors from St. Louis mostly, that were owed the money. And so it was a lot of prayer, really digging in and really working night and day that eventually I was able to turn it around. Learned a lot. I love business. So learned so much in the process. So, and there's a lot of hints and tips in the book for those who are in business.
Well, just in perspective too. So this was Sappington Famers Market ended up becoming, it's one of the biggest farmer market in St. Louis.
Yes. And it was a supermarket, actually, like a Whole Foods.
Okay.
So that people that are watching that do not know what it was a supermarket, a huge supermarket. And our emphasis was on fresh fruit and produce. I mean, a third of the store was fresh fruit and produce. And so I became really known. And then I had developed farmers growing for me. So many other things. And so there is so much in the book that we can't even get into. But there's so many things that I found out later or discovered later that I was cutting edge on many ways. And I didn't even know that.
Well, one of the things, actually, I just want to share this shout out from Beth Druitt, who says, granddaughter Ryan and grandmother Beth Slap, loving listening to Tessa. So wanted to share that shout out from Beth. Thanks so much for being here. So one of the things that you did, which is huge now, it's multicultural marketing, it's target marketing, it's reaching out to communities, individually to draw people in. And I know you did that with families and mothers, with the Serbian community. How did you do that? And how did that help your business?
Well, there are two things here. One, I wanted to market to families with children. And when I designed the store and laid it out, and I had a toy train that went around the entire store, and I had a flat card that carried the special of the day. So you had to really go around the entire store to see every department. especially if you had children who were in your car. But men loved it. So that was one of the marketing things that was brilliant, which I didn't know at the time. So, and it was fun. I'm a big thing on fun. Things should be fun. So I discovered that there were 30,000 Bosnians in St. Louis, and they were kicked out of Germany after 7 years. And so many of these people won from their homeland and then from Germany. So my thought was, if I could find foods from their country and bring it in, it would be helpful to them and they would feel a little bit more welcome.
Absolutely. How did you go about picking the products, though? Did you work with anyone from the community to know which products they really wanted?
No. What I did is I found an importer in New York City that knew about all of these. And so I brought in a pallet first, and then saw the things that they love. They love cubanella peppers and peppers of all kinds. And then I advertised in their little paper.
Okay. Oh, perfect. And did you do it in the original language? Was it advertising in
It was
English
in their original language. There was a Bosnian newspaper that was in their language, and so they could read it in their language. And so it started growing, and then I brought in more and more until I had a 16-foot aisle with nothing but different ethnic foods.
And that's fantastic. So, and again, that's such a big strategy now with grocery stores when you're looking to cater to markets. But you literally started, so funny, because for people, we're both seated, but I know you must be like Tessa's like 6 foot tall, blonde hair. And I know you talked about when you actually started opening your first farmer market. I think if I'm quoting wrong, I apologize, from your book, like in your shorts with your blonde hair, and you set up on the side of the road. Like literally to start your first farmer's market.
That's exactly right. That was the first. And really, this is really a great story for people to read in the book. I bought a truck, a big truck, a bread truck, and I rented an empty gravel lot in Pontoon Beach, Illinois. And I went every morning and got produce, took it to my lot, and then I put it on milk crates and plywood. And I was in business. It was a 4-way stop, and I built such a thriving business, made a lot of money, learned so much about the fruit and produce too at that time and what people wanted and needed. And so that's really where I started. I did that for 5 years, and I made a lot of money. And how I started was I saw all of these men that were peddlers that were making a lot of money. So I said, I can do that. I was looking for ways to earn extra money. And it worked beautifully.
You know what's interesting about that, Tessa, being a woman business leader, now there's diversity and inclusion, there's all kinds of things. So there's a lot of conversation about how you support and grow women business leaders. But back in the day, watching how the men did it was how women kind of were able to grow.
That's true. I was the first woman that had a fruit and produce stand and drove a big truck in that whole area. So again, I was looking for extra money and wanting to find a way. And I saw all of these men, and I said, I can do that. And I did it.
Were you welcomed into that community? Like, did you feel that there was a competition from people, or did they welcome you into because it's a competitive, the whole produce business is really competitive from what I understand.
It is in the grocery business, but there was no competition because I was on a corner gravel lot. So there was no competition. No,
because nobody else wanted to be there. Leave it to you. Go to the place where nobody else wants to be there. Hi, Jane. So Jane, how awesome. Terry's mom was always the coolest of cool. I had no idea how incredibly smart she is. So how funny. So just for context, I've actually known, I feel still that I'm calling you Tessa. I've known Mrs. Greenspan for a long time because I heard
Tessa.
Because her daughter and I went to school together, and Jane was another one of her friends. Hi, Jane. Thank you so much for being here. So please feel free to drop questions in, but how fun. So you are brilliant. Not only are you brilliant, though, speaking of Jane saying how smart you are, Can you share? So this book, I read it. You'll see I've got like all these like dog-eared pages with pen notes, and so your story from outhouse to penthouse is not. It is metaphorical. It is an image, but Tessa, I had no idea. I mean, this is literal as well from outhouse to penthouse.
Yeah.
Would you mind? We've talked about your success. Would you mind sharing some of your origin story or your history?
No, I would be glad to. And I'll tell you, I wrote the book really to honor my mother. What I have found, though, is people only knew me as a successful businesswoman, and they didn't know from whence I came. So I will begin at the very beginning. My mother was raped when she was 14 years old in the back hills of Arkansas is where she lived. And she decided to have me. Her stepmother wanted her to have an abortion when she was 6 months along. And she refused. Now, this is a person that had no one to go to, no one to talk to, and no one to help. So she had me, and there is a photo. I was born in that house with a hard dirt floor, no electricity, no running water, and an outhouse out back. And so that's really where I began. It was extreme poverty. We had nothing. And growing up was
I can show that.
Yes, that is the house that I was born in. And there were 10 kids and 2 adults that lived in that house. So it really is good for people to know. And I say it is not where you come from. It is really what you decide, the choices that you make, and the decisions that you make, and the determination. And going forward, put one foot in front of another. My mother always said, look for the solutions. Okay, you have a challenge, look for the solutions. And you can be a victim or a victor. It's your choice. So it's really, I had this phenomenal role model who never felt sorry for herself, never. And I do want to say one more story that is so telling about my mother. We were visiting my mother then married a man, had another little girl 23 months after I was born. And so he went into the service, and when he got out, he said he didn't want a family. So she worked as a waitress, and working at the night as a waitress. And we were visiting my grandparents, and she was on her way to get us with her friend. And they were in a horrible car wreck. Hit a concrete abutment, and she had to be cut out of the car. They didn't expect her to live. Every bone in her lower extremities was broken. She was in the hospital for 13 months. This is how bad it was. And we, after 12 months, gangrene set in her left leg.
Now, my gosh.
She was 20 years old when she had the wreck. She was 21 years old when she got out. So they had to amputate her left leg below the knee. Now, 21-year-old beautiful woman with 2 small kids. She got out of the hospital. She had 2 kids, 1 leg, and no money. I was about 6 or so, 7, maybe 7. So we were on welfare. We lived in the Gompers, East St. Louis. So
how old was she when she had you? It's unbelievable when you look at it. So this is a woman who's a victim of sexual assault, gets pregnant, her conviction, she has you. So marries someone, loses a leg. Like, this is incredible. So how did that impact? You've talked about her a lot in terms of just her indomitable spirit. How did she talk to you in terms of conveying that everything's going to be okay in the face of all this?
Well, she never felt sorry for herself. And she always said, there is a bright side. There is a rainbow on the other side. And let's find that. So there are many really wonderful, touching stories in the book, too. She got out of the hospital. She had 2 kids, 1 leg, and no money. And we were on welfare. She did not want to be on welfare. So she found a government program that taught people with disabilities because she worked as a waitress. Went to school on a bus, on crutches for over a year, learning to be a secretary in an office because she didn't want to be on welfare. So this is the indomitable spirit that she had.
Mm-hmm.
So, and
I just want to throw this up here, just the book itself. So Outhouse to Penthouse, which you can just find it on Amazon. And then I also have your Facebook up there because you often share a lot of, oh my God, talk about being a wealth of positivity. I know that that's something that you share on your Facebook page as well, just daily inspiration for people. So, but I did want to make sure people saw the book and were able to get that.
thank you. It's their mission, though. On Facebook, anybody can follow me. I nearly have 5,000 friends. So anyone can follow me on my timeline or go to my author page. But on my timeline, my mission is to put out positivity, to help people feel good about themselves, to know there's a way, to know that gratitude is so many things that I do is really saying the same things in 1,000 different ways, that you are enough, you are good enough. You know, what you think about comes about. All of these things, I say it in 1,000 different ways. And again, it's my mission. And this time in our lives has been so effective and impactful to so many people now. And I just cannot stop doing this because it makes a difference. And that's what my life is about, is making a difference in people's lives in many ways.
Well, in the book, you say, I want everyone reading this book to think about how they can open doors for others. Yes. So how do you do that? That seems to be your driving core, is this positivity, but also how do you open doors for others?
There are so many little things that we can do, and that is making a phone call. If you see that somebody has a need of something, say, I know this person, let me introduce you. And you can introduce via email, you can introduce through text, many other ways for people to really meet each other, and maybe they have a need with this. And, there are really, it's important for people to say what they're looking for too, because you never know. And I also mentor a lot of people, not so many at a time, but I've mentored a lot of people, and I have processes of how to get from where you are to where you want to go. And again, I don't charge for that because it's my gift. There are two people that
you said too, so there's two sides to that I think are really helpful for people. You've talked about mentoring others, but you also talked about either in the book or even just in our conversations about how important it was for you to have mentors as you were coming up. Can you talk a little bit about how, in this society, we're all supposed to be like, I know, like you're never supposed to show their weakness. And yet, how did you ask for help and set up that board of directors or mentors that you had?
Well, I first set up a whole, with my attorney, with my CPA, with my doctor, and an advisor. So I set that up first with the business. I then had paid coaches. I had 3 at one time.
Okay.
Business, personal, and all around marketing person. So really, my feeling, and I still learn. I mean, I still have Zooms that I am learning from. I belong to several organizations, and I am having Zoom calls or webinars to learn certain processes. And what I say too is, this time for all of us to be shut in. Many people are bored or think, what, I'm shut in or whatever. I have been so busy. To me, it's an opportunity to learn and to grow. And learn new things that I really hadn't gotten to, like more on YouTube, more on Instagram, more on all of these different social media things. And so I've taken this time, I also am doing a class with a professor twice a week on Zoom. So I have so many things that I'm doing and enjoy. Been writing a lot of articles, and they've been published in Thrive Global and Gazelle Magazine. And I'm going to be in one of the Chicken Soup for the Souls. The book.
Oh, nice.
Movie.
Oh, wow. So you were really busy.
Yeah.
And did you say that you're doing Zoom book clubs? If people wanted to read the book, you're doing book clubs with people?
Yes. I'm doing speeches too. And I can't say who it was because it's a government agency. But I just did a speech to a government agency called, how to be positive in a negative world. And I've written
Okay, wait.
that too.
I think we need tips on that. And by the way, for people who are joining us live, please say hello in the comments. That's how we know you're here. And of course, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask questions. But let's go back to what Tessa just said. Staying positive in a negative world. So what are some of the tips on it? Because there's some real change that needs to happen in the world right now. I mean, there's work to do, but it can feel overwhelming at times.
Yes. And I just wrote a really great article that they can go to LinkedIn on my LinkedIn account.
Okay.
Actually, even on my Facebook, and they can find this in the different tips. One of the things is turn off the news. Another is don't step on the scale. So
don't step on the scale. Oh, for sure. Actually, when I go to the doctor's office, I don't mind doing it at home, but the ones at the doctor's office are always like 5 pounds heavier. So I never do that. You know, it's funny, that person, Missy, just to throw in about being women and being empowered. So Missy is a friend that I met, Melissa, a number of years ago. We were in a program called Impact, which is a women's self-defense program, which is about being empowering. Look at me get up as I do it. It's about filling your space. It was about filling your space. We did actually, you got to kick someone who was dressed, you know, in padding, but it was that idea of bringing your full self to what you do and really not being afraid. Talk about that for a minute, Tessa, because I think sometimes women are afraid to bring their full selves to what they do. They're worried about hurting other people's feelings, but you have to be fully present if you're going to succeed.
You do. And that is on mindfulness, and it's staying in the moment. But I will mention to any person who wants to go on my website, tessagreenspan.com, I have a list of books, and one of the books is called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. But there's law of attraction, and most of them are, I mean, all of them are self-help, because that's really all that I read. Some development, self-help, some empowerment.
Which is really so. We talked with the mentoring and stuff. What do you see? So I'm also thinking now with your leadership positions. I know you've been very involved with NABO, the National Association of Women Business Owners. What do you see as different for women business owners that are coming up now, and some of the things that you experienced when you were an emerging woman business owner?
Well, they have a lot more opportunities now, and I think women have more courage than we did when I was coming in. Actually, I was in an industry that were just all men, and so many people expected me to fail. In fact, one produce manager said, "She'll never make it." So I thought to myself, "You just watch me." So girl power is correct. It's really feeling the fear and doing and moving forward no matter what. Really has been always what I've done, moving forward. Realize it, you know, don't just do something that's foolish.
Well, what was something that made you afraid that you really had to just push through it?
Well, I never thought that I was capable enough. I really, you know, just from my birth, I had spent my whole life proving my worth, that I am good enough. So I think the things that you have when you're young stays with you. So that's really why I am a self-help groupie of continuously learning and growing as a person, because I think that little voice sometimes creeps in. And so I accomplished a lot because of proving my worth, that I am good enough. And this is my message to women, to know that you are enough. It doesn't matter where you came from, what circumstances there were, you are enough and you are good enough. And so I would really encourage every single person to take that in.
You know, it's interesting, and I don't know if you ever had an issue with this, because you talk about the idea of that, maybe that voice that says you're not enough. And I know for a lot of women, my friends, not me, of course, but people I know, have that inner voice that is constantly going, nah, not good enough, don't do it. How have you talked about positivity so much that now that's your internalized inner voice, or how do you manage a negative inner voice?
Well, I have a whole process on this because I
Mhm.
work on this every single day of my life. Not as far as good enough, but I meditate, then I have different things that I read, then I write in my journal, and I want to encourage every single person to write at least 10 things every single day that you're thankful and grateful for.
Mhm.
The more you do write it and then read it to yourself, the more will come to you, the things to be thankful and grateful for. So
Mhm.
I do this every single day of my life. And being positive is not an instant thing, it is work. I have been doing this for many, many, many years. And
Mhm.
thank God, I am so positive. I am so grateful. To watch, though, is being aware, and I have processes of how to change that. Is
Mhm.
being aware.
Oh, do you do that process like you get the thought and then say, okay, how can I turn this around into something
Yeah,
positive?
and
Yeah.
yes, and so
Mhm.
you're aware, and then in psychocybernetics, there's a book that is a process called craft,
Mhm.
craft. So anyway, you think of the best, most exciting, the most fun, the best experience of your whole life. You feel the feelings, the sights, the sounds, and just get into it. And
Oh.
put
Mhm.
it to the top of your mind and
Yeah.
keep that there. When a negative comes in, then you switch. I call it's flipping the
Mhm. Yeah.
to this positive, wonderful message that you put in your mind that
Mhm.
will experience, and you do this over and over. And science has proven that this does rewire your brain when you do it enough.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I am aware if anything comes into my mind, then I will switch, or I
Mhm.
will cancel and delete, and I'll go to my happy thought.
Mhm. There is actually, I have a client. She's one of the largest women-owned counseling and therapy practices in Chicagoland. It's the Juniper Center, but I know there are a lot of evidence-based practices within that area now that talk
Yeah.
about that. Because you can't stop. Sometimes you can't stop the voice from coming
No.
because that's just the natural way our brain works. But you're right. How do you turn it around? And
Yeah.
I had flashed this up your Tuesdays with Tessa because I happened to listen this morning, yesterday's show, and you specifically said every morning, even if you can't think of something to be grateful for, you're like, then I just say thank you. You know?
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Well, and
Mhm.
I spend a lot of days just saying thank you because it really, if you're thinking of something and you cannot think of two things at one time, if you're thinking of something, that you just say thank you. There's so many things that we can be thankful for.
Mhm.
Thank you, that I slept well. Thank you that I have food to eat. Thank you that I have a
Mhm.
hot shower. So many things. So if you just spend a lot of time saying thank you or catch your
Mhm.
thoughts and then just say thank you for uh,
Mhm.
or thank you for helping me to change my mind, whatever it is. But thank
Mhm.
you is a big, big, big thing.
Mm. Well, one thing I love, you also talk about the idea of fun, that business should be fun, like love, leadership, fun.
Good.
And I just want to pop this up there because you're doing something right now that it's like, when in doubt, babies and puppies, right? When in doubt, babies and puppies are
Yeah.
always cute. So you've got this selfie, me and my pet selfie competition, and it's on Facebook at Best Pet Source. If people want to do it, they can do it through the end of September. But
Yeah.
yeah, talk about it. Just seems like you can create fun wherever, right?
Well, this was not, and when we got shut down, in essence, I
Mhm.
decided, what do I want to do? What have I not done that I really wanted to do? So I built a Shopify account,
Mhm.
which is bestpetsource.com.
Okay. And
So,
was that something new as well? Just learning Shopify? You were talking earlier
oh,
about
was
learning.
it ever? That was
Okay.
really, it took me 6 months because
Yeah.
there's so many things, and then just sourcing the products. And I wanted to source products just from the US, which is not easy. So,
Mhm.
yes. So now I have a person in the Philippines that is helping me to oversee it.
Okay.
We've got
Great.
a lot of pets. And the reason I wanted to do pets is because fun. Pets love you unconditionally. There are people who will do more for their pets or not even eat in order to feed their pets. So I thought, what can I do to add more fun? And so I
Mhm.
thought this would be really great because, we had a dog. I don't know if you remember him, Patches. By
Mhm.
the way, I traded a box of tomatoes for Patches when he was a puppy. Then I had the fruit stand. Uh-huh.
That's great. That's wonderful. So, well, and Patches, and actually, I remember, is this possible? So my husband, Gino, swears that he met your mom. Your mom obviously lived long enough to be a longtime inspiration, and we're very close. And she lived with you all for a while, because Gino
Yeah.
swears he met her.
He could have, because I mean, she's been gone for like 15 years. But so
No.
this was far before that you were in the scene.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. So how wonderful, though, that she was able to, after all the hardship that she went through and her hard work to raise you and literally to will you into to have you be born in a person. Like, how exciting for her to see that
It
success
was.
that you led. So
I was her pride and joy. So it's really, that was really good.
Good. So Tessa, when I opened, I talked about the fact that a lot of the work that I do is intercultural, intergenerational, and what I want to ask you. So we look at this intercultural. I call them intercultural talk tools. So being self-awareness, knowing how you impact others, having a curiosity about others, and the ability to take perspective of others. And I do have that "what scares you dares you" in terms of doing stuff. But is there something that you would add? What would you add to that toolkit to help people who want to be open and embracing and interacting in the world?
Well, as I said, there is a book called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. It's really going through it. I mean, for instance, when you first started on this, was not easy. It was a little fearful, I would think. Or let's say someone else, it could have been fearful. You were good. You may not have been. So anything that, many times the first thing, and always there's always a first day at something, no matter what it is. So
Yeah.
really making the decision that you're going to do it. And, just on my class that I'm taking, what I have found is that we can find ways to get better and better, no matter what we do in life. And that's my goal, is to improve in the areas that I want to improve in. And we're always work in progress. So you never arrive. So that's what's fun for me, is to learn new things and growing as a person.
Well, I really appreciate that. And I know for me now, if something scares me, then that automatically means I have to do it. So
yes.
Great. Well, Tessa, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much for spending time with us today. And your story and empowerment and everything is just amazing. So for people watching, thank you for people who sent words of encouragement and questions. And this will be available now both on Facebook and YouTube. So if people have questions afterwards, I invite you to leave it in the comments, and Tessa will share that to get back to you. If people want to find Tessa, we've got it's daily inspiration, right? On Facebook?
Yes.
Okay, so daily inspiration. You can follow Tessa on Facebook. You can also find her on her website, where you can connect. You can buy the book from there as well. And then Tuesdays with Tessa. So on YouTube, there's a conversation with you every Tuesday.
Yeah.
So I'm going to end our broadcast. Tessa, stay here and we'll chat for another minute. But thank you so much. Really just exciting to connect with you this way. So thank you.
Uh-huh.